Okay, I'm doing a thingy again. The importance of buying physical media. This is an importance to me, to you, to collectors, and big shout out to Lee Gambon. Ignore the display of the shelf. I'm adjusting it. So he did a recent post. I won't quote it verbatim or whatnot, but just talking about how people don't realize that other people buy physical media. I say this in a degree of sure, it seems like an obvious thing for maybe you and me. Maybe you and me are just like this. We buy a lot of physical media, got a slew of Blu-rays and DVDs or vinyl or CDs or books or whatever. It's all physical, it's all media of some kind. Probably not books, but still, I think it counts. It's art. And so there's a degree of, I'm not going to say like dumbness, that's not really a word, but like I'm not going to say that people are idiots, but like there's a degree of just floating along the clouds, not realizing the stakes that things have because people live in worlds where they are streaming and not caring about physical media and not realizing the importance of such. I think there was actually an essay talking about recently, an article by like the New Yorker or something talking about. I'm not going to quote it because I didn't read it, but like it was one of those articles that I'm pretty sure was talking about how streaming services are like cutting certain things that people don't realize, and because films that are on streaming services reduce physical essences and all this probably stuff like that. I don't really know. Probably bad that I'm saying it like this, but the fact that it's becoming a thing that people are talking about, especially in the current era of strikes and whatnot, how there's an important degree of buying physical media. I don't know how much it contributes to a writer or director's pocket where I buy a Blu-ray of their film. It probably doesn't. And at the same time, I imagine maybe it doesn't contribute as much as maybe the 0.0001 cents they may get as a residual from me constantly watching Friends on Netflix. Like, I don't know what the deal is. I will never know what the deal is. But obviously, there's an importance to all this, and it's a contribution of art and a contribution of just caring about something, the value of something to people. Now, I say that this is important is because some people don't realize that physical media is still a thing. You know, I have colleagues who I film with. This isn't my regular day job that I work in a warehouse. This is my filming job where I go out and film with people on weekends. We film sport, sure. It's the most boring thing to film in the world. It's okay, but it pays. And that's cool. And I like filming, so I can't really complain. I'm not doing cricket, so it's okay. So, and it's live streaming too, so most of the time what I'm filming, people are seeing at the same time, which is insane. You get used to it pretty quickly, because otherwise you'd be like so anxious filming that kind of stuff. But I was talking to these colleagues of mine who are 2 years younger than me, probably, and I'm hitting 25 in like a month. But you know, they're in their early 20s. They're still at university. They're studying film, but like they're not studying film like I studied film with film studies. They're studying as in making film, because they're talking about their project of, oh, we're making this film and whatever, and like, oh, we did this one project with this guy and he was a dickhead as a director, but then we worked with this person, they were wonderful as a director, like stuff like that, like on set issues. And I mentioned, of course, because my partner was picking me up that day from work, because we were in like Williamstown of all places, yuck, but actually quite nice, lovely area. It's just annoying to get to, but she was picking up 30 Barbie DVDs, or it was 20 Barbie DVDs for $30. No, it was $40. I think it was 20. Either way, she was picking up a slew of animated Barbie films, for the reason of she wanted to have them. She wanted to have a specific box set that had come out in the UK that was like well out of print, worth $300 to $400 on eBay, and no one had it in mint condition. So it's like, clearly she ain't going to get that, and it's probably better off that she just gets the Australian versions, even though the region code for both of them was still region 2 and 4. Either way. So she's picked up these DVDs, and I mentioned this to my colleagues, like, oh, you should put these DVDs, and they're like, man, people still buy DVDs? I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about? Yes, people still buy DVDs. Like, I know maybe not everyone does because everyone's so used to streaming, but people do buy DVDs. I've talked to people who even say how they have friends and family who, even if it's just DVDs instead of Blu-rays, they still buy physical media. but they might buy physical media because they don't have access to certain streaming services, or like their internet is shoddy or whatever, so it's just easier for them to buy physical media. And there are essences to it where, and this is the most striking element, because I feel like the most striking element actually probably is that people don't realize that physical media still exists. But the reason why it needs to exist, the proclamation of such, is because having film as an accessibility should be everyone's privilege, you know? We should all be able to have access to whatever films have been made. It doesn't matter whether this be through streaming or physical, it's just the fact that we should have access to this stuff, you know? So it's absurd to me, in a way. Like, not completely, because I don't live so much of a head in the cloud that I'm like, obviously everyone's buying physical media. No, I still live with family, they don't buy physical media. My brother buys video games on Steam. My parents don't buy movies because they ask me to buy them. They're like, hey, do we have this one? I'll be like, no, we'll check my phone. Nope, doesn't say so on the app. Okay, can you get me a copy? Or what streaming service is it on? Usually if it's not on Netflix, they just ask me if I can just get a copy. You know, recently with Chariots of Fire that happened. Ironically, a bit differently because my girlfriend has Disney Plus, so I am connected to that account. So we were able to, like, Dad was able to watch it through that. But that convinced me, I'm going to buy Chariots of Fire on Blu-ray. Only cost me $14. Pretty good, you know. I don't know, isn't it like the average subscription to Netflix now? Like 14, 15? I don't know, my parents pay for it. I don't have to worry about it. That's for them. I have this. And the Criterion Channel, which I don't complain about, because I actually like the Criterion Channel. But still. So, it's a thing too where, this is why I want to mention Lee in particular, because of his post. This was just on his own private Facebook that I'm friends with on Facebook and whatnot. And it's interesting to see it from his perspective, because he is someone who does two things for physical media. Firstly, he sells it. He has a company, it's Cinemaniacs Home Media. They distribute physical media, you know. Well, is it distribute? I'm pretty sure that's the thing. They don't publish it because obviously they don't have the rights to stuff. They just buy it in, they import it, and they export it. Simple as that. It's a standard business model. It's been working for a lot of companies for decades. You know, JB Hi-Fi, Dead and DVD, Cinemaniacs. They've all been doing it. Same with bookstores and whatnot. They get it from the people, from the publishers, and they just distribute it. So that's half of his job. The other half is commenting and doing essays. So he does commentary tracks, he does essays. I did an interview with him earlier this year, and it was wonderful, great insights in terms of the way he does his stuff. And he's done a plentitude of essays and video essays and commentary tracks for movies. They're always really well researched and really interesting to listen to. He's just that kind of guy. Like, he's also the kind of guy who'll put in the effort to, you know, do all the research, but he's also the kind of guy who just generally knows a lot of this stuff. So from probably years of consuming it, years of reading and doing all this kind of stuff, that you could just talk to him naturally and he will go on and on and on. But like in the non-annoying way that a lot of people can be when they just know too much stuff, he's just a great guy. So he recently mentioned an interaction he had with someone who didn't realize that physical media is still a thing that happens. And it's like, okay, you know, like to some people, again, they live in the bliss of, oh, well, we've got streaming, why would I need a DVD? Okay, let me give you an example. My brother's friend came over once, saw the shelf. Pure amazement on his face. It's like, holy shit, that's too many movies. And I'm like, I know, right? It's great. That's probably a quote, actually. I will quote myself on that. That is probably exactly what I said. It's wonderful. And he asked if his favourite film, Call Me By Your Name, was on the shelf. And I said, yeah, no, I've got it on the Blu-ray. It's up there or whatever. It's actually all over there. And I mentioned to him, oh, you know, do you have a copy? And he's like, oh, no, I just stream it. And I'm like, well, what service is it on? And he's like, I've no idea. Gee, what a fun favourite movie of yours that you can never fucking watch it unless it happens to be on Netflix or Stan, assuming you have the subscription. Boy. So, yeah. I mentioned to him that, like, just go to JB, it's like $10, you know? Find it on eBay. It doesn't really matter. Have a copy of the goddamn movie. It doesn't. I'm not going to argue to get Blu-ray or 4K. I'm just going to say get a physical copy. You know, sometimes just getting a DVD is good enough. So the importance is the fact that it's not just for your own convenience of you can watch whatever you have whenever you want to on whatever equipment you have. It's more of the importance of who it helps, who it benefits. You know, I'm buying stuff that is from Cinemaniacs, from Dead and DVD. Sure, stuff from Amazon, JB as well, but it's still going to the people, to some degree, the people who made it, but it's still putting money in the economy of physical media, of physical versions of art that people will consume. The more money you put into it, usually the more it incentivizes the people up top to be like, hey, this is selling, good, we'll do that. The annoying part is when something like that happens and it encourages different behaviors. Say, for example, the recent announcement of, was it Megan and that Christmas one, Violent Night, had recently been announced to get 4K UHD releases when their Blu-ray releases had come out months ago. What's up with that? Like, sure, that's an encouraging thing at the same time, because it's like when in Australia, for me, my personal example, Being Evil did 2, one of my favourite films of all time, and Studio Canal did a 4K UHD, but I didn't know they did a UHD. They had a 4K remastered version. Usually it's like, okay, well, maybe they just did a 4K remastered, released it on Blu-ray. I bought the Blu-ray. 3 months later, oh, look at that, they've released the 4K UHD. Say what now? Now that could be just a slow transit to get things to Australia, but realistically they would have come in at the same time. So the same thing with this Violent Night and with Megan, and it's like, is it Megan, Mafregan? Either way, the fact that it's like, oh, you know, it's sold pretty well on Blu-ray, let's release it now in 4K. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? If you're going to release the movie, release it on all formats. In Australia, we have so many restrictions that, and this isn't restrictions in terms of like classification system, this is restrictions in terms of how lazy companies are with actually supplying us with physical media. So the restrictions to the films that you could get from the US or the UK really easily on Blu-ray or 4K. And we will get it on DVD or probably nothing. Tar, a movie that was Oscar nominated with Australian actress Cate Blanchett, DVD release. Same as Bodies. And, oh, look at Barbarian. I don't recall there ever being a physical media release of that ever in the world. But I don't know, that just might be me. Well, maybe Disney's just accidentally just buried like 500,000 copies or somewhere in the desert. Like E.T. So, it's annoying. There's the essence of people who are regular consumers who are just prone to, I've got streaming, I'm just going to go with streaming. But now, of course, there's becoming the complaints of streaming's becoming more expensive, and there's so many goddamn services around, and it's like, oh my god, this was meant to be a replacement for cable TV, which I think is still a thing in Australia. I just call it Foxtel. But like something like Foxtel, it's like you got cable in America, that kind of stuff. All these, you know, there are so many suppliers, so many services. It's like, I don't want to pay for all that anymore. Screw it. And then it's like, well, here's all these digital platforms, and look, here's Netflix. It's got everything, not everything, but everything in like the apostrophe thingy of yeah, nah, but maybe, sure, I don't know, depends on the month. We're not going to tell you what's going to come in or what's going to leave, but it will probably be there eventually or not at all. Don't you just love when that happens? See, again, Criterion Channel, they tell you what's coming in and they tell you what's leaving, so you have time to watch both. Wonderful. Beautiful. So, yeah, that's very annoying. It's very annoying. So, of course, you know, that became a big thing. People started doing streaming. Obviously, here we are with 200,000 streaming services, and no one's willing to pay for them anymore, and the prices are going up, and no one's willing to pay for them anymore, because they're paying too much for too many different streaming services that they're not even really using. So, how's that going, streaming folks? I'm making an enemy out of you. Ah, nah. I'm not going to victim blame people for streaming shit or like buying DVDs or not supporting physical media at all, because at the same time there's a consumer element that I completely understand. People don't want to have to buy physical media, maybe because they don't have the room, they don't care to, they don't have a good TV. I don't know, there's some financial reason maybe they don't want to buy physical. I'm not going to shame people, you know, but there is an understanding in general that, sure, there is the money aspect of, do you have the money to support all of these streaming services every goddamn month, $15 a month for 17 different streaming services, or would it be easy to just be like, I really like that film. I'm going to buy the DVD because it's like $12.99 at JB or what's an American one, Best Buy or something. I don't know what your regular retail prices are in America, but either way, you could just be like, I'm just going to buy the DVD of this film because I really liked it and I would love to watch it again. Say Everything Everywhere All at Once that came out from A24, which got a Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K UHD releases. Annoyingly, the 4K UHD was, at least in Australia, just a 4K UHD. I would have preferred a combo. I like 4K and Blu-ray. That's just me. But the fact that that came out and the fact that it sold really, really well, same as Top Gun Maverick, goes to show that people still want this stuff. Something that could be in cinemas for months and keep coming back. Like Top Gun had the element of, we're going to be in cinemas for like 8 months because people just kept going back to see it. Whereas Everything Everywhere All at Once, they had it in cinemas for a couple months, it did really well, then they took it away, and then they brought it back for like a weekend, and then they brought it back for like 2 weeks, and they kept doing that because America's weird. Just leave the goddamn movie in the goddamn cinemas. If people are paying, leave it there. Do you know what? Some cinemas in Australia, we've got some, smaller independent cinemas like the Cinema Nova in Melbourne, and they will have it running for weeks on end. Sorry, dare I say it, months on, sometimes years on end. Something like The Room, which is a cult classic, plays once every month, the first Saturday of every month. Something like Everything Everywhere All at Once played for, I think it's still playing there, in fact. I don't know currently if it's still playing there, but it was playing for months. And that's amazing. Like, sure, it's only a small independent cinema, but the fact that people were still going to seeing it, and like that they have a record, I think they've got like a Letterboxd account or something that's like, these are the movies that have been watched the most. How they've been around for the longest amount of time in the cinema. Like, this is number one, and it's this one, now it's this one, and all this kind of stuff. So, like, that's still great. There's still supporting cinema, there's supporting TV shows on whatever platform you can, and then there's physical media. And there's still disappointing elements for each one. A lot of movies that can be that can be accessible in cinemas have been restricted to just, streaming services. Take The Farewell, a film that could have gone to streaming for a lot of money, like the director was saying, that she could have gotten a lot of money out of just going to like a streaming platform that she didn't name, probably for legal reasons. But let's assume it's Netflix. Netflix is like, wow, this is a great film, masterpiece. We loved it at this film festival. We're going to give you $2 million, or let's not say $2 million. We're going to give you $40 million for it, and it will go straight to Netflix. What do you think? Compare this to this other distributor who's only going to give me a smaller percentage, but it's going to go to theaters. And it was in theaters for months. Shit, man. Was Netflix going to promote it? Who knows? I don't know. She said that there was a lot of wiggle room. It's like probably not going to happen. It'll probably just be put on there and buried and no one will ever watch it. No one would know who the hell that director was. I know who she is. I have the DVD because it never came out on Blu-ray in Australia. So I bought the DVD. Which sucks because I like the film a lot and would love to just see it on a Blu-ray instead. But, sometimes it is what it is. There's a lot of movies and shows that are like that. Say, show-wise, TV show, of all things, HBO, a very popular network, has kind of programs like Game of Thrones. You might have heard of it, They've been so big on forcing Game of Thrones down everyone's throat in the 4K realm now that everything's been upscaled to 4K. And they've completely subsided almost everything else in their catalogue. Succession's only been getting DVD releases in Australia since the first season. The first season got a Blu-ray, which I have. You could not get that Blu-ray anymore. And it's just gone. They've only got DVD releases for each season, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's such a visually beautiful show, and it's on DVD. Like, I don't want to force myself to get binge again in Australia just to rewatch the show. I had to do that for Barry because I only had the first season on DVD because that was actually a buy two get one free DVD show. So I bought the first season because I really liked it, and I rewatched the first 2 seasons while the 4th season was airing because it was on binge and I was subscribed, and I was also the same goddamn streaming service in Australia that happened to have Succession because we don't have the HBO Max or whatever the hell they call it. We have binge. Stupid name for a streaming service, but still, like, the whole idea is binge will be your favorite shows. And I'm like, but what if these are movies? Doesn't that kind of contradict your, advertising ploy? Anyway, stupid, but anyway, we get the shows, I'm still happy to have access to them. Something like The Last of Us, you get 4K steelbooks, Blu-ray releases, which is wonderful. It's good to know that stuff can be uber popular and do that, but it's like, what about Succession? Why not? Barry didn't get Blu-ray releases at all, like anywhere. I don't even know if Succession got Blu-ray releases in America post the first season. No one's talking about it. It's just kind of gone, you know? Like, sure, you can still stream it, but have you seen the compression on some of those sites? My God, there was like 2 or 3 episodes in that last season of Succession that's like, they're at nighttime in like Norway or something, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's happening. It's just pixels and blocks and shit, because the compression on binge is terrible. Great benefit of physical media, there ain't no compression. Unless, of course, the film's actually being really poorly rendered onto a disc, which can happen. Do your research, kids. You know, still got to do your... Just don't blind buy it. Just do your research on a film before you buy it, just to make sure that the actual Blu-ray itself is good. Because half the time, it sucks when it looks like shit. And sometimes it does. It is what it is. So, my main ploy here is, obviously, yes, support physical media. Support who you can when you can, whether this be people like Cinemaniacs or Dead End DVD, or even just JB or Amazon or whatever big brand place you want to buy and harvest your souls from. Fine. Support cinema, support TV, support the goddamn writers who are striking, the actors who are striking. You know, support the people who create the content that you love and adore, that you restrict yourself to just Netflix for. Oofed. You know? Buy a goddamn movie for once. Look at the goddamn shelves at like Best Buy or JB, and look at how minimal they're getting week by week, and realize that, oh no, this is dying. But they've been saying it's dying for years, so realistically, is it dying? Who gives a shit? You can also buy boutique stuff, and boutique may sound weird because it's boutique, it's in the name, but you can buy big branded stuff like Criterion or Area Video, or stuff that like people who are putting so much effort into these movies, that you'll get amazing packaging and amazing transfer, whether it be a restoration or just a great transfer, commentaries and special features up the goddamn wazoo, essays, posters, art cards, all kinds of stuff. It's beautiful stuff, and it's wonderful to see the people who work on it. I'm friends with the people who work on some of these projects. It's even if they're just providing just their voices into an audio track that talks about a film that you could choose whether or not to watch. It's great. It is wonderful to know these people. It's wonderful to help out these people who buy and sell and work on this kind of stuff. Same as other like YouTubers who buy physical media. I know it's just a thing. We just buy physical media. I'm not doing film reviews. I'm talking about physical essences of movies and TV shows, because I love and respect this stuff, and I love and respect the people who help make it happen. So, yeah, I don't know. There's my heartfelt ploy for you to give a shit. And to be fair, I know most of you who are watching this probably already do. You're probably like, this isn't a message for me. I already know this stuff. It's like, yeah, but it helps. You know, sometimes you got to actually say the words you need to say before people can realize the actions that need to take place. Sometimes it is just like that. So yeah. So again, pardon how awful this looks. I'm in the middle of working on it. And I don't know, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. I talk about physical media. It's great. I like it. It's a joy. I like watching movies and TV shows and talking about the physical versions of this kind of stuff. And I also am a film scholar. Ha 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 ha. Not really, but I've got a degree in film studies. So yeah. And, you know, support local. Support your people who distribute films and brands and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be exactly for Amazon or whatnot, but like, you know, support Criterion and Area Video, or even local Australian people like Cinemaniacs and Dead End and all that. Like, just do what you can where you can. That's all I really can ask. Do yourself a favor. See you next time.